And finally we have the new Pokemon, the main selling point of this entire franchise. So with the next part, I probably didn't add as many as I could have, as many new Pokemon ideas as they reasonably could or should be, but I did try. Okay, so there's at least that. The first Pokemon, and an idea I'm surprised has never actually been implemented. A dog starter. And look, Pokemon actually has a lot of dogs. There is an insane amount of dog Pokemon, more than there reasonably should be. I think more than any other animal. Well, maybe aside from fish. I think there are definitely more fish. Either way, a lot of dogs. But there's somehow never been a dog starter. There have been 2 cat starters, but no dog. Even though they're called man's best friend, you know, our partners, there's never been a dog. So I feel like, you know, maybe this is where it would be. Maybe this is where we finally get a dog. And the Karakachan breed, the Bulgarian Shepherd, is our own personal breed. And because it's a shepherd, I could see it being a grass-type starter. A Pokemon that uses its scent to attract members of the herd. And because its purpose is to protect the herd, it could be a fighting type or a fairy type. To ward off against the more sinister ones. The problem with the grass fighting is that there already is a starter that is grass fighting. And if you don't know, if you're not aware with the Pokemon community's opinion on repeating starter types, they are very vocal against it. So maybe not grass fighting, maybe grass fairy could also fit. Maybe we'll go with that instead. There already is a grass fighting starter. Then we would have a horse. There are a few horses as well, but this one in particular, I immediately had the idea of having a Pokemon based on the Madara horseman. A rock-type horse. Maybe some kind of rock-type horse that's holding itself together with psychic energy. Some kind of statue-like, a broken statue of sorts. That's being held together by pure psionic ability. I am a big fan of that in general, not just in Pokemon, but in fantasy. I like that concept. So I think it would be neat to have it as a Pokemon as well. Then we have a bit of a smaller one, a Hedgehog. One of our literary characters from children's stories is this person over here, the hedgehog called Eshkobeshko. Now Eshkobeshko, as you can see, is a hedgehog that has all sorts of stuff stuck to his back. So I had the idea of a grass-type hedgehog that actually grows berries on its back. The problem is, Shaman exists, right? And it is, as you can see, a grass-type hedgehog. So it would need to be very different from Shaman. If we're gonna have another Pokemon based on the same animal with the same type, it would need to be somehow different. I don't know what else could be added to make it different, but we do need an Eshkobeshko. And with a Pokemon like this, I can see it, because it has so many things stuck to its back, right? As a Pokemon, it would grow berries, but I can see it having multiple different forms. Like the Pokemon Vivillon, like the Alcremie line. Have it grow different berries on its back, change its appearance. Maybe based on whatever berry it's currently holding, or maybe on other factors, I don't know. But just have this mechanic. I feel like it would be a very good fit. Maybe that's how it would be separated from Shaman. Maybe that's how it would be different. But this is the idea I had for a hedgehog. A hedgehog, not a hawk. And then we would have a Martenitsa. And this is a very special tradition we have in Bulgaria. The Martenitsa, as you can see here, are threads that are shaped in the form of a man and a woman. This tradition is done in the month of March. In Bulgaria we call it Mart, and that's why it's Martenitsa, because it's in March. And we create these little figures. The man is called Piju, and the woman is called Penda. So this would be the object Pokemon of the region, the fairy type Martenitsa. And typically the Piju, the man, is white, and typically the woman Penda is red. So this would be the colors of the Pokemon as well. And their shinies would be, you know, flipped. Because I've heard some people think that the man is red and the woman is white. Apparently that version exists as well. I know it with these colors. And as you can see, they can be as simple as you want or as complicated as you want. But this is the more general design. And I feel like what would make the most sense is that initially they would be two separate Pokemon. The male and the female would be their own separate thing. But then you catch one and use an item on it, and if you have both male and female in your party, they combine into one using the stats of whichever one you evolved with an item. So the second one kind of disappears and becomes merged with this one. I feel like having that mechanic would really work well with the Martenitsa Pokemon. But the tradition does not stop there, because when we put on the Martenitsa in the beginning of March, we put them on and you're supposed to keep them on until you see the spring birds coming back. And that is the swallow and the stork. The moment you see the swallow and the stork, that's when you take it off. And, well, back when I first came up with this idea, back in 2015, there was no stork Pokemon. Now there is. Bombardier. But I figure maybe we could have another stork. Another European stork. We are doubling down again, like with the grass-type hedgehog. Now I'm proposing another stork. But in my defense, like I said, there was no stork Pokemon when I first got the idea, so I kept it. Because I don't know what else to do, right? It's either gonna be a swallow or a stork. There already is a swallow, there's already a stork. So I'm gonna double down on one of them either way. But how we could distinguish this stork from Bombardier, which already exists, is to use the tradition of Nestinarstvo. Nestinarstvo is the ritual of walking over hot coals with your bare feet. So having a flying fire type or a flying ground type, I feel like would fit here. Combine the animal with this ancient ritual, with this tradition that we have, with this cleansing ritual, just to separate it from the other stork. I could make the argument for both of them, obviously fire type because it's hot coals that you have to step on, but ground type because the ground type is strong against fire, so if you're stepping on fire, being ground makes it easier for you to step on. That's what kind of my thinking. It could be either or. Both types I think work, both I think fit the vibe. But I feel this could be how we make another stork work, by combining it with this with this tradition. And next up, I did mention, when you see the first stork or swallow, you take off the Martenitsa. But then what do you do with it? You tie the Martenitsa to a sapling, a young tree. So this idea is just to have a tree Pokemon, which we kind of have and we kind of don't have. Obviously you can see Trevenant chilling over here with me, but Trevenant is a dead tree. There is Executor, which is a palm tree, it's a bit more exotic. There is Sudowoodo, which is a fake tree. There is Abomasnow, which is a snow-covered mountainous tree. But there isn't really just a more standard green tree. So I feel like we could have one at some point, right? I feel like there has to be at some point. You gotta put one eventually. Just a good old oak tree or an apple tree, whatever tree you want, just a tree of some kind. But to finish this tradition, we do need all three of these. You need a Martenitsa, you need a Stork or a Swallow, and you need a tree. These three would very much be connected if, as I keep saying, if Bulgaria ever becomes a Pokemon region, I think this would need to be referenced, this connection. So that's why these three are here, and why they come in this exact order. Next up is the Marbled Polecat, an animal that I didn't know existed until very recently. Apparently these things, these like weasel-like things, are very connected to otters, skunks, weasels. They live here in the Balkans, and as you can see, their habitat goes from the Balkans all the way over to Asia. So they're not really a rare Pokemon, but in Europe they exist only here, in Bulgaria, in Macedonia, and in Serbia. This is where they live on the Balkans, and just a whole lot of Asia. So a Marbled Polecat could be placed here, and I immediately had the idea. Obviously it's called the Marbled Polecat, marbled because it's the spots, it's on its fur, look like marbles, I suppose. At least I assume that's the reason. But what if the marbles are not just for decoration? What if they are actually marbles? A rock-type Pokemon that collects rocks and polishes them to make marbles, to actually make real marbles, and then use either psychic energy or electric charge to magnetize them and to just shoot them forward and use these marbles as weapons. And I connected that kind of to it being a billiards player or a pool player, and this is the only Pokemon I gave a name for. It's Marble, from marble and pool. This is the only idea I actually had. For the other ones, I guess if I put my head to it, if I really delve in more into their designs, I could come up with a clever name. But this is the only one I had. This is the only idea I really had. So it could either be a rock psychic or a rock electric. I did already propose a rock psychic for the horse, so I feel like electric rock would work a little bit better. But it could potentially be either or. It could also maybe even be electric psychic, you never know. Maybe it just creates these small marbles from its electrical powers. Maybe it just looks like marbles but isn't actually marbles. You could honestly go either way. Any combination of these three types I feel like works with the idea. Then next up is the Lighthater, a little insect that lives exclusively deep in caves. And I don't know if they're only in Bulgaria, but they are prominent here in Bulgaria. They live in several caves. But their point is that if they go into sunlight, they kind of die. Or, sorry, they get unalived. Sure. So, having like a bug dark type, which I know the dark type isn't used for shadow, it is used for more underhanded methods, but yeah, it's kind of been used for shadow as well, so I don't know. But this Pokemon having an ability like solar power, which makes it lose health in sunlight would be very fitting, since it actually dies when it, gets unalived in sunlight. So having this kind of thing would really suit it. Then, I already mentioned the stone mushrooms. There could be a rock-type mushroom. There are plenty of mushrooms currently, but it could be something related to Pseudo-Wudo, which is a rock-type tree. It's a rock-type that pretends to be a tree, so this could be a rock-type that pretends to be a mushroom. I could not figure out a clever name for it like Pseudo-Wudo. I honestly tried, and I gave up. But we could have something like this. And then, speaking of rock types, for the fossil, because almost every generation, I say, not everyone has them, they have fossils that are in some way important. Like, they changed. Every single fossil so far has in some way, shape or form changed our perspective on ancient life. They have shed light on how things used to be that we previously did not know. And the fossils, the remains that we have in Bulgaria is actually of Homo sapiens, aka us, people. So we can't really make people into a Pokemon, but there are many humanoid Pokemon. So many of them, almost. The fandom has fun with those. But either way, we could make, potentially, I'm not sure how much sense this would make, have a fossil of that is basically the ancestor of these humanoid Pokemon. Because in Bachokiro Cave, we found the earliest evidence of Homo sapiens here in Europe. And we previously thought that Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, which, predate Homo sapiens, we thought they had more of a distance between each other. But these remains prove that Homo sapiens and Neanderthals lived together for more than we previously thought. And then at some point the Neanderthals, went away. And we remained, the Homo sapiens remained, and eventually became us. But this did change the timeline of Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. And because this is based on the Homo sapiens, who were very famous for crafting their own tools, for adapting to their environment, having the ability like adaptability or protein, I think it's protein, having abilities like these, which their entire purpose is to adapt to the environment, would be very fitting. And then we would have two version exclusive Pokemon, the grass and fairy type Samodiva and the water ghost type Rusalka. These are both feminine spirits, female spirits, but they serve a different purpose. The Rusalka are more malicious spirits. They are the ghosts of drowned women who lure men to their watery graves, lure men to their demise. The Samodiva, they can be somewhat malicious as well. If you anger them, they will seek revenge, but they are a bit, calmer, I suppose. They have their grim side as well, but they're not as obviously malevolent as the Rusalka. So having these two female spirits as the version exclusive, I feel like makes sense. They will also be the waifu of the region, I suppose, because you need those as well. You need the waifus, right? You need the very clearly feminine Pokemon to attract certain people. Oh, the hello raccoon, thank you for the boop. Thank you for the boop. So here we have the Samodiva and the Rusalka. Next up, and for this one I don't have a photo because I don't think there is a real image or a clear description of what a Talasum looks like. But there are descriptions of what they do, and I wrote them out and I will just read them. One version is a wandering spirit that looks for a home. If it finds a home it likes, it will live there and chase away the humans who live in it. And there is an entire ritual how to get a Talasum out of your house. There is an entire thing. But another version of the Talasum is that they are either people or items that were walled into a building. People who presumably agreed to being, locked into a wall with zero chance to escape and to just die in there. And then those items or those people become spirits and they protect the building. Oftentimes to an extreme degree. Like they will go very far to protect whatever building they were meant to protect. So for a Talasum, I feel like it... First of all, I'm not even sure what this Pokemon would look like. Because I don't know what a Talasum actually looks like other than it's a spirit. But it would be definitely a ghost type. Obviously a ghost type. And I feel it could have the mechanic. It starts off with the first version. It's a spirit that's looking for a home. And then if you evolve it inside of a building, if it levels up in a building, it becomes Ghost Rock type. Because it takes in from the building, it has found a home. It's found something to call home. And just that way it evolves. I feel it could have a mechanic like that. To connect both versions of the story of the Talasum. It is a rather bizarre one. Again, I don't know what this Pokemon would look like. Because the Talasum is often described as an invisible ghost, so it doesn't really have a form. It can maybe shapeshift, it can take over things, but there is no clear description, this is what a Talasum looks like, unfortunately. So I don't know what this Pokemon would even look like. And then we have a very unique thing, and this is something I also learned like a few months ago. This thing that you see on your right is a pepper roaster, Trushkopek in Bulgarian, and Wikipedia describes it as a uniquely Bulgarian kitchen appliance. I didn't know these things are uniquely Bulgarian. It never occurred to me that this is just something that we have. Apparently it is. If anybody who's not Bulgarian uses a pepper roaster, feel free to tell me because I didn't know. I thought it was just something that's used everywhere. It's apparently not. It's apparently something only we have. So we use these things to roast peppers, and wouldn't you know it, there is a Pokemon based on peppers. So maybe using a special item, a Trushkopek of some kind, a pepper roaster, Scovillain becomes roasted. Or maybe it could evolve from Capsicid and have a split evolution into the roasted pepper. So those are the two options I have. Either Scovillain evolves into a roasted pepper, or Capsicid gets a split evolution. Because it never would have occurred to me to do this, but when I saw that this is apparently a Bulgarian thing, I knew I had to add it, because what the hell? Again, if you've seen a pepper roaster and you're not Bulgarian, please tell me. I need to know, is this thing really only found here? Do only we use it? I need to know, please. Oh, and the next one. A Pokemon would need to be based on the Thracian treasures that we have here in Bulgaria. We have an insane amount of Thracian treasures. The most I think we have found are in Vratsa, which I mentioned with Skaklia and the cave Ledenika. and also in Kazanwak, which was Cauldron City. So, maybe a Pokemon based on this mask specifically, it could take on and become a regional variant of Yamask, which you can see both Yamask over here. This one with a very similar looking mask actually. It's a very similar, but this is only a ghost type, and this is a ground ghost type. The variant Runerigus. This version, based on Thracian tombs, will be called Tumorigus. Will be a steel ghost type, steel because of the gold treasures that we have unearthed. Maybe it could be its own separate thing and not be a regional variant of Yamask, but yeah, I had the idea. Regional variants are cool. But this is the idea I had for a regional variant. And then we finally delve into more of the legendaries. Right. Grandfather Frost, Diadumras, Lesnik, which is me actually, hello, that's the Leshy, and the Vudianoi, the Vodnik. This trio of legendaries could be guardians of their areas. Diadumras, Grandfather Frost, guarding the mountains, the snowy areas, the Leshy, guarding the forests, and the Vudianoi, guarding the waters, the sea, and the rivers. Mostly the rivers, I would say. Now, the problem is the Vudianoi isn't usually a guardian. They kind of kidnap people. They kidnap women to be their wives, and they kidnap men to be physical labor. So, maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense for the Vudianoi, but let's suspend our disbelief for a little bit. Let's just pretend that they can be guardians. And let's just have them here. The Elemental Guardians. And then the Evil Legendaries. The version exclusive Evil Legendaries. On the left, we have the Hala. It's also called Ala, which is an ice and lightning spirit. They create hailstorms, they create thunderstorms, hence the ice electric type. They exist to destroy crops, they exist to ruin people's livelihood, and also kind of people, by association, because when you have like a massive hailstorm, massive thunderstorm, people are gonna be hurt too, not just crops. But that's what the Hala does. They destroy farmlands. And for the other version, we have the Karakonju. They are, I believe, originally a Greek spirit with a name that I can't even begin to pronounce. It's written over here. If you want to Google it, feel free to. I'm not even gonna try. In Bulgarian, we call them Karakonju. And they are an evil spirit that comes at night and torments people directly. Now the Hala more destroy people's livelihood, the Karakonju meddle with people on a more personal level. So they do have that difference as well. And for the Karakonju, I did put it only as a dark type. I feel it does need a secondary typing. I'm just not sure what it would be. Because if these two are the evil versions, we obviously need the good versions. These would be the box legendaries, the Zmei and the Kukir. They would counteract these two that you see before you. The Hala would fight against the Zmei, a dragon flying duo type. The Zmei, in some Slavic legends, they can be seen as evil entities who kidnap people, who also destroy and ruin. But in other versions, they protect, they guard, and they specifically fight against the Hala. The Hala seek to destroy people, and these may fight the Hala and protect people. So the Zmei would be a guardian who directly intervenes to help the people in this Pokemon region. The problem being that the Hala has a clear type advantage. The Ice type alone is super effective against Dragon Flying. So that's not entirely good. I feel like I would need to change the flying type to something else. I'm just not entirely sure to what. But yeah, as the typings are currently, it's in favor of the Hala, unfortunately. I did not entirely think this through. And on the other side, in contrast to the Zmei, as I said, intervenes directly. The Kukir, they empower people, they empower others to protect themselves. The Kukir is a tradition in Bulgaria, which, well, it's more or less what you see here, right? People put on scary costumes, scary masks, and they don a lot of bells. The idea is the scary costume and the loud bells chase away evil spirits, and the Kukir specifically chase away the Karakonju. That is the main foe that the Kukir fight, so this one is perfect. But again, the problem is I made Karakonju dark type, and the Kukir is fairy and fighting. Both fairy and fighting are super effective against dark, so that puts the Karakonju at a clear disadvantage. So that's what I would need to rethink. I would need to put more thought into these segments, into these parts. Because the Zmei and the Kukir, actually, if they were enemies, they would really work against each other. Because the fairy type is super effective against the dragon type. And the flying type is super effective against the fighting type. So they actually balance each other perfectly, but they don't balance with their own enemies, is the problem. So that's something I would need to redo. Should I ever do this into a more coherent, more, a shorter video than what's happening right now, I would definitely need to go back to the drawing board and see how these typings can better match up against each other. But for now, this is the idea I had, and this is all the ideas I had. This is the end of this entire franchise, this entire series of videos, what I think Bulgaria would look like as a Pokemon region. There are definitely things that I didn't think of, mostly with the Pokemon, because obviously if a new game is made, there would be a lot of new Pokemon, more than what I described. So, and there are definitely things that I didn't like, that never occurred to me. Maybe some kind of references, some kind of piece of history that I didn't even know about Bulgaria, that would be added by the Pokemon Company. But again, I can't possibly know everything. I'm just one guy who came up with these ideas. Maybe if I delve into extensive, weeks-long research, maybe I can find like I can come up with a full list of Pokemon. But I think I covered the basic ones. I think I covered the obvious ones, what would make the most sense. And I'd like to think I did so for the rest of the things, for the 8 gym cities and for the other miscellaneous locations that would be present. And I hope you found this even a little entertaining, even a little bit educational. Maybe you learned something about Bulgaria that got you interested, and maybe if you didn't know anything about Pokemon before, maybe now you're interested in Pokemon. Maybe you came here for the Bulgaria part, maybe you came here for the Pokemon part, maybe you came here for both. Either way, I thank you very much for sitting through with me, and if you have any other ideas of your own, if you think I missed something obvious, well, you are more than welcome to comment it. I am always I am welcome to more ideas. Should I ever decide to expand on this, to make it a bit more of a coherent series, maybe put more effort into the story as well, that could be fun. I would love to revisit it. Maybe not just even Bulgaria, maybe I can do other countries in the Slavic region. The problem is I'm not very knowledgeable about that. I would need help for other countries, because I don't know a lot. I don't even know much about Bulgaria, if we're being honest. But that is for the future. For the present, I thank you very much for sitting through with me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I very much hope to see you again.